So we're excited tonight to have Josh and Jess Kidwell with us. We had them a couple of weeks ago in service, which was really awesome. Spending the weekend with them and having them share with us their ministry, how God has been using them in Japan, and hearing about what they're doing. So we wanted to be able to put together a Zoom call for other area ministers and folks that might not know, Josh and Jess might not know you guys. So tonight, as we come together, Josh, Jess, we want you just to be able to share with us maybe a little bit of, first of all, about you guys, kind of what you share with us, maybe an abbreviated version of what you shared with us on that Sunday, kind of where you came from and how you came together, and then where you ended up where you've been for the last 2 years, as far as in Japan, your ministry, what God has done with you there, and then briefly share with us what you're doing now, and then where you're going, or what your vision is for the future, timetable, what you need. I know that's a lot of talking points, but you guys are good about that. So you have the floor, and again, hopefully other pastors will be able to watch this and get to know you a little bit, and then hopefully get you in their church before their people. I mean, that's our goal, is to get you opportunities to meet other pastors in the area and get other Christians in the Low Country to be able to know who you are, what God has done with you, what God is doing, and what your vision is for the future. So I'll let you take it away.
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to thank you, Robbie, and Michael, for doing the legwork and setting this all up. It's just a great opportunity. We love speaking and telling what God's been doing in our lives and in Japan. And so just having this opportunity has been just great. So thank you. So like Robbie was saying, I'm Josh Kidwell. This is my wife, Jess. I guess we'll start with a little bit about ourselves. So I was not raised in a Christian home, and I came to Christ around 13, and instantly wanted to do something for God, but had no idea what. Long story short, I went to a Bible college and tried to figure out what I believed about Christianity. I wanted to learn the basics. And while I was there, I was planning a secular job. I was going to be a civil engineer, but while I was in Bible college learning about the Bible and about who God was, God started calling my heart, or calling me to mission. I mean, just didn't say where yet. Just God wanted me to go around the world somewhere and start telling people who didn't have the opportunity to hear about the gospel. And around that time, I started praying and seeking God more and saying, okay, God, what do you want? Where do you want me to go? I know you're putting this burden of the lost on my heart, because here in America, we can hear about Jesus anytime we want. There's churches everywhere. There's books. There's podcasts. There's all sorts of endless supply of resources to hear about the gospel message, and to tell people about Jesus. But around the world, that's not the case. And so
That's right.
I said, okay, God, where do you want me to go? And through a missionary coming to my church from Japan, God started to introduce me to this idea of, okay, go to Japan. And the more I started, studying about Japan, learning about the culture, and just a lot of things started breaking my heart. There's a breakdown of the family. Just divorce rates are through the roofs. Suicides are through the roof. It's the leading cause of death in men, I think, 18 to 30. I mean, leading cause of death is suicide. That's just mind-boggling. And so these are the kind of things that started bringing me to the idea of Japan. Now, obviously, there is need everywhere in our country and other countries around the world. So the need is not the call. But God used that need to draw my heart towards Japan. And people always ask me, how do you know that you're called to Japan? I say, I can't imagine doing and serving anywhere else. Doing what I do and serving anywhere else, I can't imagine it. God just put this burden, and when I think about not serving in Japan, I can't do it. I can't think about it. And so I would say that is the idea for me of knowing that I'm called to Japan. It was a leap of faith. I had to give up everything here, leave my friends, my family, my job, everything. But I'm okay with it. I mean, that's thing I can tell you. It's like, I'm okay with it, and more than okay, I'm excited to do it. So that was a little bit about me and my backstory. Jess and I came to the idea of Japan separately. We did not. I did not meet her and just convince her to come to Japan with me. That was a different thing. So I'm going to let her say her past story.
So my story is a little bit different because I did grow up in a Christian home. I was born in Charleston, moved to Greenville, South Carolina when I was really small, and I was going to church from the very beginning, basically. I loved going to church, and every time the doors were open, I was there. And even at a very young age, I felt like God was moving my heart to serve in some capacity, but I didn't really know how. And so I just started trying different things in the church to see what I was good at and how God might be able to use me. But it was after my junior and senior years of high school that I actually went to Arizona to serve as a summer missionary. And it was through that experience that I felt really called to missions. And initially I thought that I would be going back to Arizona because it's very different than the Bible Belt of Christianity. But while I was in college studying missions, I had a lot of the same experiences that Josh had in just experiencing and listening of these statistics and needs that we kept hearing in Japan. And it was very interesting to realize that God had kind of been intersecting my life with Japan for a long time. Whenever I was in first grade, we actually had a Japan section because my teacher had lived there for a bit. And so there was a time where I wore like a little kimono and like said like 1 through 10 in Japanese in front of the parents and stuff like that. So it's funny looking back on that and seeing how God has kind of already had that working in my life. And so whenever I felt like very sure that God was leading me towards Japan, I happened to mention that to Josh, and we quickly decided that we'd like to do this together. So as of now, we've been married for about 6 years as of August 2nd, and I can't imagine doing it without him. It's been a huge blessing to be able to serve in Japan, and even though we don't know the language, Japanese is quite difficult.
We haven't mastered the language.
Yeah.
We know a good bit of the language, but
yeah. So after 2 years, we could understand a majority of what was spoken to us, but we were having a hard time speaking. It's like trying to translate in your head and get the right words out. Just weren't quite there yet. So we're still studying, and we hope to go to language school at the beginning of our term this coming year.
Give me 1 second. I just want to put a little footnote on everything that we're going to be talking about. We were in Japan for 2 years, got back in March, but it's impossible to try to sum up everything that God did and everything that we were doing in Japan of 2 years on this little video. So that just everything we say, know that this is just a trailer and a little snippet of what God's been doing. And we're trying to pick up some of the best things or some of the things that we think that people enjoy to hear and what we think people need to hear. And so just keep that in mind. Like when you listen to this, if you guys have any questions of more, you want us to talk about more specifics in certain areas, feel free to contact us and we'll have all that information, I'm sure, later. But yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to, I feel like I always feel like I'm forced to say so much on it, like trying to put everything in, and that's just not possible. So
yeah. Sure.
So with our 2 years in our first term in Japan, we were actually partnered with a local church. Our organization doesn't believe in the missionaries just going off on their own and starting churches, but we want to support the local Japanese church because we feel that they're able to meet the needs of their people and understand how to communicate best with them than we would as outsiders coming in. And so part of our partnership with this local church was based on the fact that they had experienced a severe disaster 2 years prior to our arrival. So this was the epicenter of a double earthquake, and the people were still living in temporary housing, and they still just had a lot of physical needs left to be met. But that was just a really great opportunity to also meet their spiritual needs, because we've seen in Japan and several other disaster opportunities that they're just ripe for the harvest. Like this is the time where God is working in their hearts and they're desiring to hear the gospel message. And so through that, our church had a desire to help start some sort of gospel work in the 3 surrounding towns where we lived. There was no church presence there prior to our pastor and us going in and trying to start the first groups of things. And we were able to start something in 2 of those 3 towns. One was just in a cultural center, which was a great opportunity because a lot of Japanese don't feel very comfortable entering a church. And so this was just a free space, a very common space that they could come in and still hear about the gospel. We did Bible studies, we would sing songs and sometimes play games, but they felt safe there. And toward the end, we even started getting some more interest of one person just straight up asked, what is the gospel? And so that was a great opportunity for us just to communicate specifically what the gospel message is in Japanese. The other town, it was also a beautiful story. There used to be a church there. There's still a church building, but there's no congregation. And
the congregation moved to a different church. I think the pastor died, the original pastor died. And so they took the community there and moved it to a different church, and they had a separate church building closer to where we were that had a church congregation meeting there, and they just kind of moved over. But it's like probably a 30 or 40 minute drive from there. So everyone going to that church had to make this long drive now. So it's kind of a sad story, but
yeah. But we talked with this church that all the congregants had kind of moved to and asked if we could partner with them and utilize their church space to start something. And it was very interesting that each month that we did something, it was always different. We always had different people coming. But it was just really neat to see that even though we didn't really know how to go about it or how to really communicate very well, God was still able to use us. And it was just us being willing and just doing what we could and being who we are that really was an example for them too.
Yeah.
But,
tell people kind of, someone doesn't know you, they don't know about, let's say they don't know much about Japan. Where are you guys, you told us about the towns that you've been ministering in, working with the church there that's already planted. Kind of where you are geographically, just give us like an idea of where you are. Are you in the, more in the city? Are you in the country? Because I don't know much about Japan. Take us to where you are. I have no clue. I just see what you see on TV, and usually that's big cities. So I really don't know. Take us to where, give us kind of an idea where you are. What is life like there for you guys? And you just tell us maybe just about one person that you got. Are you reaching younger people? Are you feel like you're getting more action or maybe interaction with more younger people, or is it older? Give us an idea there.
All right. So to begin with, Japan is this kind of like this weird little J shape almost, and everyone knows about Tokyo over here. Well, we're on this bottom island here. It's made up of 4 big islands, or the major island, and we're on the very bottom major island of Kyushu. Everyone should be familiar with the city of Nagasaki. We're on that island, right across the bay from Nagasaki, actually. So that island, look at the dead center of that island, and that's where we were at. Now, there was a large city near us, but we actually lived in this tiny little farming town, really. So right outside of our window, there were these rice paddies and just mountains and rivers and all sorts of different farmers. And so that's the place that we lived. Now, again, we could go 30 minutes into a town that's about, it's a decent sized city. Yeah, we always say a Greenville-sized city for those in South Carolina. I'm sure Charleston is about the same or similar size. So it's a decent sized city, but again, that was not something that we were going to frequently. That was about maybe a once a week kind of trip into the city to do some language study and other things there. So that's kind of like the setting that we were in. Everyone knew us. We were the only white people in town, which is why everyone knew us. And so we, it was very different. I'm from Las Vegas. So I'm used to being in the city, and all of a sudden we're in this tiny little town where everyone knows you and wants to talk to you. And so it was actually a very good opportunity for us to go out and be witnesses in this area.
I feel like pretty much everyone would ask, why did you come
Yeah.
here? They just didn't really understand why two young Americans would come to this very rural area of Japan. And that
Right.
in and of itself was a great opportunity to share with them the gospel, because we felt that this is where we need to be. This is where God wanted us to be. And we just served in however we could. Thankfully, we had the church to kind of lead us in the right directions, because we didn't really know anything going in.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
see, that's the thing too, is the reason we actually went to this area is because a major earthquake hit this area, and that drew the attention of our organization and said, okay, maybe we can help out in this area.
Yeah.
So our organization, their kind of motto is respond to need, proclaim the gospel, and equip the church. And those are the three kind of things that we focus deeply on. And so we can tell the people there, oh, we're here to respond to the need that you guys have about these disasters and the people who've lost their homes and need resources. We're here to do that. But we're also here to teach people about the Bible and about Jesus. And of course, that instantly brings up a lot of questions, because most people don't have any back knowledge of Christianity. There is a little bit of Christianity in their history of Portuguese missionaries coming, and a lot of things like maybe 300 or 400 years ago, maybe a little earlier than that, more modern. But other than that, they really don't have an idea. So just of us being asked, why are you here, brings us a lot of that idea. But to answer the next part of that question is like, who are we reaching out to? That kind of ties into the last two of those three statements of proclaiming the gospel and or equipping the church, because we're wanting to tell people about Jesus in the community, but also the church in Japan is stunted in a lot of ways. They don't have the resources that we have, so that the lay people aren't as educated about the Bible, typically speaking, as people in America. And so one of our jobs was just to encourage them and like, let's read the Bible together. Let's study it and see how it applies to our life, and let them know that it is applicable to everyone today.
And we really wanted to empower them to feel that they could go out and share the gospel with their friends and neighbors, that it wasn't just pastors or church leaders, but that everybody could do that. Especially in Japan, with the country being less than 2% Christian, we need all hands on deck. And so we really wanted to let them feel comfortable and give them resources and help them see that you don't have to go to seminary to be able to share the gospel.
Amen.
And I mean, we see this a little bit in America, where a lot of the responsibility sometimes falls on the pastor, where a lot of the people, the church congregations will just assume that if they can bring their sinner to church, that the pastor will get them saved, or it's the pastor's job to be bringing people into church, and it's their job to support the church. But in America, there's enough pastors, typically speaking, to do that kind of job and take over that job, even if it's not their responsibility. They're still being able to step up to that job. But in Japan, there are not enough pastors. And they feel like they have to go to seminary in order to be a pastor. They can't be a lay pastor. They can't be a lay person even telling about Jesus. So there's a severe limit to the amount of pastors in Japan, and therefore there's a severe limit to the amount of teachers to spread the gospel. And so that was kind of the stigma we were trying to break. So we were focusing on a lot of the youth in the church, specifically teenagers who are going into high school. It's a big turning point in Japanese culture. High school is when an immense amount of pressure is put onto these kids about their career, and they're basically the rest of their life trajectory is formed in high school. So when they're being told that the most important thing for them to do is study and get into college, and the church is saying, no, the most important thing to do is your relationship with God, it's very countercultural, and it's very stress-inducing to these kids. So that was one of the major things that we worked on with the kids in the church. But out of the blue, God kind of got us involved with children. I do not see myself as like a children's pastor or a youth leader or anything like that. Jess loves kids, loves working with kids, is trained in that area, but I am not. But God, through his divine wisdom and sovereignty, got us to speak at a middle school. And that middle school had brought a newspaper, the largest newspaper company in our state, brought them in. The reporter did a report on us. We made the paper. And from that, we got invited to more and more schools. And by the end of the 2 years, we had been to more than, I think, 6 or 7 different schools to speak at and talk to the kids. And we're being invited to tell them why we're here. So we're telling these kids, oh, yeah, we're talking about the Bible and Jesus and all these things. And they're inviting us to do this. And so it's mind-boggling to think about, because I would have never imagined in a million years for us to be able to do that, especially in Japan. And so it was just those little things like that catch you off guard. So we came in thinking, okay, we're going to focus on the youth in the church. We're going to focus on the communities and whoever will listen. But God really drew us to the children in the community as well. Not only elementary and middle schoolers, but again, focusing on those high schoolers because of the amount of stress that's on these kids.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, I love the fact that you guys are the hands and feet of Jesus, that you're going there where there's disaster, where there are people hurting. You're there to support them, help them. You're there to build up the church, to, encourage the church, to equip those that are, obviously ill-equipped in the church because obviously they just don't have the resources. But then how God just used your faithful service to open up other opportunities you had no idea that God would do. And that is super cool. It is just awesome to see that, that's what we serve, an awesome God. And he is, surprises us every day, right? So that is really nice, really awesome to hear. So tell us now, you guys are in the States, currently based in Greenville, right? And you are, visiting churches, obviously having meetings, trying to raise support. Tell us kind of where you are in that process, what your need is, what you're trying to go, what your goal is as you're looking to get to that point to raise up enough funds to get back on the field.
So Josh had mentioned that we've been back in the States since the end of March, and the first 4 months of our support raising journey were quite stunted. We started in Las Vegas, and we were there for 2 months, and then moved to Texas, and we were there for 2 months. And during those first 4 months, we really couldn't do anything because of COVID. We didn't get to go to church but once in those 4 months, and we weren't really able to meet with people because they weren't very comfortable, which we completely understand. So it was very different than what we expected initially, but I think that's been the case for everybody in all of it.
Yeah.
But since we've come to South Carolina, it's been such a blessing just to be able to be in church and to learn and grow and worship in English again. And we're visiting churches, talking with pastors, and through that, we've also had the pleasure of having people be bridges for us, where they connect us with other people, and that kind of grows our network. And through this, we do have to raise support. We're completely funded by churches and individuals. We're about 50% of the way there for our monthly budget, which means that we need about $3,400 more per month to be fully funded to serve in Japan. So that money doesn't go all to us. That money also helps with our sending offices and the support services that they give us to help us to serve at our best. And then there are ministry expenses for resources and tools to be able to serve and do the different events and activities. And then there's also the salary for that's kind of how our budget is broken down. But beyond our monthly budget, we also have some needs like buying a car whenever we get there, settling costs, getting furniture for our apartment, and language school. So those are kind of like separate budgets that we have to raise before we go.
So people could get involved financially. Obviously, we want them to pray for you. I mean,
absolutely.
And are there any specific things they can pray for? I'm just hearing things I can pray for you for, which is a car, money for a car, and get the right car, a dependable car. Obviously an apartment, that's going to be a need. We want to pray that you'll be able to find the right place.
I honestly, one of the biggest things too is right now we're not going back to the same church we were working with. Currently, our placement is still up in the air because of COVID. We don't know exactly where we're returning back to. It's going to be Japan, but it's between Tokyo and the place that we were at, the area we were at. But if we did return to the place we were at, it would probably be in that city that was 30 minutes away to go to language school. So we would not be close enough to be connected and partnered with the church we worked with. There would still be opportunities, of course, to check up on the growth and help out with certain events that they do, but we would just not be partnered with them in the way that we were last term. We would be partnered with a new church. So one of the big prayers is pray for that we find a partnership that was just as good, because that church did everything that we needed. It was a total God placement. I mean, it was a church that understood, that was our first term, understood that we did not understand the language very well, was very helpful in helping us get involved at the beginning when we didn't have the language skills. Just everything about it was great. And so we're just praying that God will do that again, that he will put us in a church that clicks where we are now, that we can serve in the most efficient way, and that they can, that we can still grow in that area.
Yeah, and that the gifts and the things that we desire to do and the ways that we desire to serve will be beneficial for their church and the vision that their church has.
Amen.
So that is one. And then the other very practical one is that we want to be back in Japan in January. So obviously finances, we need them fully funded by January, but more importantly, or equally important, I guess, is Japan that still has their borders closed to Americans because of COVID. So we're just praying that God will continue to work and get this COVID situation taken care of so that we can open up the borders again and make it through to Japan.
Amen. Well, we know God is a God of breaking down barriers, and so he can make a way. I've heard thousands of missionary stories how God made a way for those. If it's his will for you to be there, he'll make a way, right? So we have no doubt about that, but we'll certainly be praying for those needs. Tell people specifically how they can get involved as far as financially supporting. Individuals can support you. Obviously, if there's a pastor watching, how can they contact you so that they can also maybe invite you to be a part of their church, a service to share with their people?
So one of the easiest ways is just to email us. My email is Jessica.Kidwell@sim.org. And we're also on Facebook. We have a group called Josh and Jess in Japan, or you can just look us up and we'll accept your friend request.
Certainly going to be praying for you. Now, we're going to transition now to maybe your vision. Obviously, you've shared that with us a little bit of what some of it's uncertain. But one of the things I remember you shared with us while you were here is that you felt maybe because of the unique, or you would say there's a real problem in marriages in Japan, and you guys maybe feel like that may be an area you can minister. Tell us a little bit about your vision there.
So when we were serving in Japan this last time, we were constantly asked, how do you have a happy marriage? Or they would see us laughing and ask us how long we've been married and say, no one laughs after the first year of marriage. And that really broke our hearts because
marriage is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and we're laughing all the time. But it was really difficult initially for us because we're a lot younger than most people in Japan that are married. They typically won't get married until they're 30 or 40. And so the people that are asking us this are older than us and have been married for a lot longer. And so at first we're like, we don't have any way to really speak into this. Like, we just got started ourselves. Like, how do we give them advice? And God was just really opening our eyes to think like, okay, we should be studying this. We should be looking at resources, and we should find ways to eloquently communicate this, where it's not just spitballing ideas of things that work for us. And so during our home assignment, we've been reading books and talking to different people to gather resources and just really be able to grow in this area, because we know that it's something that needs to be spoken into in Japan. There just is a really poor communication among couples and between parents and kids. And we would love to be able just to share how Jesus has made a difference in our marriage and how Christ should make a difference in their marriage. Because it's not just non-Christians that were asking us this, but Christians were talking to us and concerned for their marriage. And so we would love to just speak into that in any way that God has for us to do. Where there's one ministry that has kind of opened up called the Alpha Marriage Course. They've actually translated all their curriculum into Japanese. And so it's just a time where couples can come together and you watch a video and you're able to communicate. They have questions to go through, and then you share a meal afterwards. And so this is a really great opportunity to have a group of couples come together and learn together. And they can kind of keep growing even after the sessions are over.
It boils down to also going back to that, or those three mottos again. It's responding to a need. We see a need in the community that we feel like God, is desperately wanting to fix in that culture, and he's using it not only to help the individuals and in the culture, but also to bring glory back to himself. This is not the first time that we've seen in Japan where people had a physical need or a relational need that when other missionaries started working with that area, opened up opportunities to the gospel. There's another missionary in our organization who wrote a book on parenting because they were asked by so many people about parenting. And through that book, people started coming to church and doing Bible studies because they saw how integral God was in parenting and in lives and raising children. So we don't think that this is just a let's try to fix a worldly problem with no spirituality attached. I think it's very closely intertwined with the gospel message. I mean, that's what marriage is. It's an example of Christ in the church. So, yeah.
Amen. Beautiful segue into the gospel, isn't it? Talking about the marriage relationship, it is absolutely a picture of our relationship with Jesus. So, awesome that, God has even given y'all that opportunity to share where there is a physical or a relational need, like you said. Well, I've enjoyed having this opportunity. Anything else you guys want to share with, there's other pastors possibly going to see this. Anything that you guys would like to just speak to those pastors if you have an opportunity to?
Well, just off the top of my head, I would like to say that we are going to be in South Carolina through the middle of November. So if there's any way that you want to talk or even try to meet up in person, we will do our best to do that. We will be heading west into Texas in November and Las Vegas in December. So meeting opportunities would be slim after that. But who knows? If for whatever reason January doesn't work out, we might be making another trip over to the east. So we don't know. But just to give you an idea, that's where we're going to be. We'll be in South Carolina till mid-November.
Good. Well, we'll try to certainly get the word out, and hopefully through this video, many pastors in this area can get to know you guys, get to know your vision and hear your testimony, and then hopefully have you at least reach out to you guys and possibly get you to come to their church. And we pray that God will meet your needs and will do many great things in your lives as you prepare to go back to Japan in 2021. All right, we're going to end this video from the live stream anyway. We appreciate everybody joining us. Thank you for taking the time to watch it, and hope that you'll be able to click on the links and visit Josh and Jess their Facebook page. Join their group. It's an open group, so anybody can join it, and you can keep up to date what's going on with their lives right now. And certainly if you're a pastor, I would encourage you to reach out to them and have them come to your church if you can have them come. We know that these are difficult times. We know it's hard on all people, and certainly it's hard. It's been hard on churches, But if you would love to have them, I encourage you to get to know them. They're certainly someone who would help you reach souls in to the uttermost part of the world. So thank you again, Josh and Jess, for visiting with us tonight on this Zoom call. And thank you again for taking time to share how God is using you. All right. God bless you.
And listen to.
All right.